We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this an alternative world branched off.
Good morning or good afternoon, depending upon where you are listening to me. This is Robert Phoenix, broadcasting to you live from the heart of Texas, Central Texas, the capital, Austin. Welcome to Navigating the Astrological Matrix. I will be your host and guide for the next 90 minutes, and we will do live readings. We will discuss astrology, and we'll look into some interesting phenomena as it pertains to Mercury retrograde with a couple of interesting people and stories that are out there and circulating. And we'll also get into some of the aspects that are taking place now. Venus has moved into Capricorn. It is not the best place for Venus, Capricorn. It is just not. Venus in Capricorn, there's this formalization that takes place in emotions and relating with Venus in Capricorn. Like things take on a much more formal tone. You know, like in your own personal relationships, there tends to be at times even a assemblage of some kind of interpersonal hierarchy that will take place, right? Somebody will at some point try to or attempt to lead or take the lead inside of a relationship. It's a very Capricornian thing to do. So one of the things that we have to watch out for in our personal relationships are power struggles with Venus and Capricorn. These can be difficult and challenging, especially if there is somebody who thinks inside the relationship that they have something to teach the other person, or the other person doesn't feel like they want to be told what to do, or they don't want to be receptive to information or interpersonal dynamics. Now, the key with Venus and Capricorn is you've got to find a way to work together. So this is a time where if you are in a relationship, you can be more sort of didactic or matter of fact. And you can sit down and say, what are our goals? A lot of people, it's like goals. What are goals? Goals, we live in a world where goals are really ephemeral. The economy is going to collapse. We're going to have the lights go out all across the country. There's a massive super planet coming our way. Why should we set goals? Well, because at the end of the day, you really don't know. So you may as well plan to live in this world while having a firm grasp on the relationship to the next world, and that is the connection to your soul, to be in this world but not of it, right? I mean, I think that's what the goal is. That's what it was laid out to be. And that's a really hard balance to strike. So when we look at Capricorn is a very earth-oriented sign. It's tangible. It's like, it's about real outcomes. It's about manifesting on a step-by-step linear basis. Capricorn is a very linear sign. But at some point, Capricorn will take leaps. And when we look at astrology, all we have to do is look at the symbols that are associated with the sign. I mean, sometimes it's that simple. For instance, if we look at goats, right? How many of you have seen pictures of these goats that are climbing up these walls that are almost vertical in places like Italy? They're amazing pictures. And to me, this really typifies the spirit of Capricorn in some ways. How the goat can get a toehold on the side of a cliff face, a sheer cliff face, and make its way up the side of this mountain. Well, there will come a time where I guarantee you where that goat will have to leap across a small chasm, or from one rock to another rock, or from one small little outcropping to another small outcropping. So the goat does have the ability to leap and jump, and actually a significant ability to leap and jump. We don't often associate that with goats. We associate them with climbing on hills or being somewhat, stable and upright and eating grass or whatever. Not really moving a whole lot. But goats can jump, and therein lies the sort of the mystery of Capricorn, right? Because there is this linearity, and there is a moment when there's a leap. There's a moment when there's a leap with Capricorn, because that's what goats do. So what we have is we're at a time, especially with relationships, it's a good time to take stock of the relationship. A relationship. What do you want out of it? Where do you want to go? If you are in a partnership where you and your partner are actually working on something together, i.e. a business, that would be the most, I would say, sort of tangible and obvious manifestation of Venus and Capricorn. If you're working on a business together, it's a great time to structure. It's a great time to look at budgets. It's a great time to plan things out. Have a 6-month plan, a 12-month plan, a 24-month plan, whatever it is. This is Venus and Capricorn. Roll up your sleeves, get it done. If you are thinking about starting a business or doing work with a partner, this would be a good time to explore what that would look like. Because you can actually, put stuff out on the table and say, hey, this is where we'd like to go. This is what we'd like to do. So let me do this. Hold on. I'm getting distracted. I decided to just recently open the chat window, and I opened the chat window in this little sidebar in the studio, and I spend too much time looking at it, seeing who's logging in and who's logging out, and then I become self-conscious. Because when I see somebody log out, I think, oh man, I said something that was controversial, boring, so I can't look at it. I've now relegated the chat room to the unknown nether regions of my perception. It doesn't mean I don't know that you're there. It's a great chat room. I just can't focus on you right now. So anyway, that is Venus in Capricorn. We're in it. One of the other things that we will see here over the course of the next few weeks is, Venus is going to, in a short period of time, right, within the next 11 days, it's going to conjunct Pluto. Now, this is a significant aspect, especially as it relates to everything connected to government and the rise of the corporatocracy. Try saying that fast 3 times. Corporatocracy. I almost sounded like Rush Limbaugh there, didn't I? Corporatocracy. When I was a kid, W.C. Fields was one of my favorite actors. How bizarre is that? You mentioned the name W.C. Fields, and nobody knows who he is, really. W.C. Fields. W.C. Fields was a Freemason, by the way, and Aquarius, too, to boot. Anyway, so we're going to see this Venus-Pluto conjunction, and I have a strong feeling that this is going to be a major crossroads for whatever this beast that Obamacare is. There will be something that will take place right around within the next 11 to 12 days that will be deeply Obamacare related. And a couple of scenarios could play out. One is that we will have a rare kind of X-ray look behind the scenes. We're already starting to get some of that, right? If you look at sort of the backstory of Obamacare, it was a no-bid contract. And it was actually the company that did Obamacare was a friend of Michelle Obama. I mean, this is what's going on with our country. I mean, cronyism has always existed. Cronyism is an outgrowth of tribal relationship and tribal affiliation. It's just the way it is. We'll never get around it. But technically speaking, people would take their shots at it at a much more manageable level, right? It's not like, hey, I'm just going to go out and I'm going to get my best friend and their company to run Obamacare with a no bid contract. That's a bit of an overreach. Something a little bit lower generally is manageable, but this shows you the audacity of people and people in power now. People in power don't give a shit. Sorry, they don't, because nothing happens to them. Nobody ever gets punished. Nobody ever does time. Nope. Everybody gets a free pass. And if they don't get a free pass, they're off to rehab or some, ridiculous, place where they can, do their soul searching or whatever that thing is, right? So that's why there's no oversight. That's why people don't care. Nothing happens to them. It's a really toxic and corrupt form of enabling that's taking place. So we're seeing a little bit of that now with the story coming out that there was a no-bid contract, and, oh, by the way, it's Michelle Obama's friend. More will come out. It will come out. And when Venus moves into the conjunction with Pluto, well, people who have a vested relationship or invested relationship to power, and power as it relates to organizational interaction, partnerships at a high level, Pluto is going to come in and it's going to expose these things. It's going to expose the level of investiture that people have had in these efforts, in these machinations. And Obamacare may not be the only one. We might see 2 or 3 other things. Now, what happens when that occurs is that there will also potentially be moments where people will try very, very hard to hold on to power and control as a result of this. So they will exert more influence. They will pull in favors. They will push media in order to hold on to their position. So we can see forms of overcompensation also taking place in the next 10 to 11 days, because that's when Venus moves towards Pluto, right, in Capricorn. In your own relationships, I think it's important to try to scale back and dial back the I'm on top, you're on bottom kind of paradigm, which can take place with Venus and Capricorn. Now, I know there are two people that listen to this show, they're probably in the chat room right now, who do have a business together. And that's a great time for you guys to be able to really sit down and do your planning. And if you're not in a relationship and you're not part of some governmental superstructure, which is doing the beast of the rise of the corporatocracy, you can also see Venus and Capricorn inside yourself and your relationship with yourself. Right? You can look at it from the standpoint of where am I with my own goals? Where am I headed with my relationship with, being on this planet? Are my goals worthwhile? Do I need to walk away from them? Do I need to simplify my life? These are all very important questions on an inner dialogue because, Capricorn represents corporations and you are your own CEO, as my good friend Del Eversole likes to say or likes to use as an example. So this is what we're looking at, especially with Venus and Capricorn. What's really interesting is there's this story that is making the rounds on Facebook and other places. And the story is about, let me see if I can find this here. I punched it up. The story is about Ilya Zhytomyrsky. We just call him Ilya Z. He killed himself 2 years ago. That's on the 14th of November, 2011. He was 22 years old. And he was trying to launch a competitor to Facebook called Diaspora. And the diaspora, of course, refers to the flight of the various tribes of Israel out of North Africa and the Middle East. That's what the diaspora means. But the diaspora, as it relates to his project, were people that would flee Facebook and go over to his site where they could experience privacy and not being, having their lives peered into on a consistent basis by Facebook, which is the front for a number of various agencies, including the NSA. If you're on Facebook, everything that you're doing is just being sucked up. It's sucked up. It takes a little more effort for other things, but Facebook is a direct conduit to massive computers in real-time monitoring and surveillance. So this guy committed suicide, and what's interesting about the story is that it's popping up all over the place. It's only the 6th of November, so it's not quite the 2-year anniversary. That would be the 14th of November. But clearly, this is kind of a manifestation of Mercury retrograde, where these things are coming back around and coming back to us, right? So we're being asked to look again at who this young man, who's apparently a phenomenal young man, who he was and what he was trying to do and what may have been behind the cause of his death. 22 years old. They just raised $200,000 in donations for diaspora. Didn't have the profile of a depressed and suicidal young man. He was very eager and enthusiastic. If you've ever been around somebody who has an idea, a hot idea, and they are inspired by it, you know that by and large they are not depressed and suicidal. They are alive and inflamed by the passion of the idea. It's the people who've been beaten down after a while, whose ideas or whose patents have been stolen or have been broached or been shut down, threatened, whatever. Those people may actually commit suicide, but not a 22-year-old young guy who is hot on the trail of a new social networking site. And by the way, there's been nobody in the wake of Ilya Z, let's just call him Ilya Z, there's been nobody in the wake of Ilya Z who has done anything remotely like what he was trying to do. So essentially, Facebook continues to have a monopolization on social networking. But again, this is a Mercury retrograde kind of experience. It coming back and it coming around. Well, here's another Mercury retrograde experience. Saw this today, put it up on Facebook. This is from The Independent, Wednesday, 6th November 2013. The toxic monster is coming. Texas-sized floating isle containing 1 million tons of junk from Japan's tsunami drifting towards U.S. The most concentrated stretch of rubbish, dubbed the toxic monster, is currently sitting between Hawaii and California. Isn't that lovely? Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. This is a Mercury retrograde long, Saturn, by the way, it plays into this as well in Scorpio, long moment. This stuff is not only toxic, but it's probably radioactive as hell. And it's interesting to note that they use the term toxic monster, because if we look at the history of Japanese cinema, what really stands out with Japanese cinema? It's Godzilla. And Godzilla is the result of an atomic blast in Japan. And he's this monster that arises out of the ocean. And what is Godzilla? He's a lizard. He's a giant lizard. He's a giant reptile. And what sign rules reptiles? I can tell you right now, it's Scorpio. Reptiles and snakes, it's Scorpio. And so here we have this toxic monster due to the fact that there was a tsunami and a massive breach at a nuclear power plant on the coast of Japan, and the toxic monster, the Godzilla of trash, is coming our way. Now, I don't understand why there is not a concerted effort to take care of this. James Burns, who's been on the show before, has said that every Navy in the world should be out there cleaning up. He's right. He's right. He's absolutely right. There should be a massive campaign to deal with this crap. Now, where you're going to put a Texas size, I know, look, that is probably hyperbole. Texas is a pretty big place. But let's say it's enormous. But where are you going to put that stuff? You got to put it somewhere. Right? How are you going to deal with it? How are you going to grind it, break it down, make sure it's detoxified, all that stuff, man. It's a major work. But, for the right people, there's jobs there. Seriously. I know this sounds completely off the wall, but there are jobs there. You could scale an economy by taking this thing on. But this is a Mercury retrograde event because a long time ago, well, not that long ago actually, in the 1940s, the United States bombed Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It was one of the most horrific events in human history, and there have been plenty, trust me. A country that's about to surrender, 2 cities that were left untouched, specifically for the sole purpose of testing the atomic bomb out on them. And don't think that the Japanese have ever forgotten that. Don't think that they haven't forgotten that. So maybe, just maybe, what we're seeing with Fukushima is not just the inability to lose face, or you know what I mean? I mean, the Japanese they have a lot of pride. They don't like to lose face. And by admitting that they couldn't control Fukushima, they would not lose face. So maybe it's that. Maybe it's just the inability to wrap their heads around the situation and handle it. It's too big for them. Or maybe it's just a giant fuck you. Like, fuck you. You know, you came in here, you bombed us, you sold us on all these nuclear power plants through GE. Now guess what? It's your problem. And it's coming to you. Screw you. Maybe that's part of it too. In any event, this is a Mercury retrograde moment. Saturn in Scorpio. Where's Chiron? Chiron is in Neptune. What does Neptune rule? It rules the oceans, right? Pisces. What is Chiron? It is the wound. Our oceans are deeply wounded. They are wounded almost beyond repair. There are reports now coming out about sardine kill-offs. When there's a sardine kill-off, that is a baseline species in the food chain. There are reports that starfish are tearing themselves apart. This is serious stuff, folks. It's all happening out in the Pacific. It's all out there. But just because you don't live in the Pacific doesn't mean that you are not going to have to deal with this. You know, I live in Texas. We have a cold front coming in. Guess where it's coming from? It's coming all the way down from Alaska, and it's whipping around the Gulf of Mexico and coming right up into the center of the country. And what do you think it's bringing with it? Nobody is immune, okay? We're all in this shitstorm together. And there are people that want to go on and on and on about global warming. Global warming. Global warming. And there's that. And they don't mention jack shit about this. There's not one peep out of the global warmers about Fukushima and what's happening with the Pacific Ocean. Months. That's Chiron in Pisces. That's what it is. And we are in a crisis with our oceans. And there are people now, finally, people in the government, i.e. congressmen and senators, are finally starting to pay attention. Because they're deeply troubled. They should be. This is potentially a cataclysmic planetary event. Now, there are people who don't believe in it. There are people think it's a con, it's a scam, it's another thing to distract us. Well, when you keep hearing reports about what's happening, not just from the United States, but also Japan, and coming through independent news sources, I beg to differ. Truly independent news sources. Another story that probably will be talked about here with Mercury retrograde, and I promise we're going to get some readings. It'll just take me a minute, is the death of Pat Tillman. And today is Pat Tillman's birthday, the 6th of November. And some of you may remember Pat Tillman. Pat Tillman played football for the Arizona Cardinals. Pat was a guy that got every single ounce of his physical ability out of his body. He was not a very big guy. I think Pat was around 5'9" or 5'10" at the most. He was thick though. Pat was pretty solid. He was like, you know, a chunk of muscle. And he was a fierce dude. I mean, he had a reputation of being one of the hardest hitters in the NFL. He played safety. He went to the University of Arizona, grew up in the Bay Area. And once 9/11 happened, Pat decided to quit playing pro football, go off and join the crusade. People talk about, look, I don't want to cast aspersions on the dead, but people talk about how smart he was, and I'm sure he was smart. People talk about what a scholar he was, and how much he knew about the history of war and the classics. I don't dispute any of that. But I'm not sure leaving the NFL and going off to fight in Afghanistan was the smartest thing to do. And I probably think his parents would agree. He and his brother enlisted, and rumor has it that Pat had figured it out. He had seen the light over there and was talking to his friends about when his term was up or when his mission was over, he was going to come back and spill the beans on as to what was going on over there. And Pat never made it out of Afghanistan. He got caught in friendly fire, shot and killed. Now, the friendly fire that took place. I'm looking at this. I did this with I did a chart. It's interesting in terms of astrology, in terms of numbers, where it took place and at what time it took place. So Pat died on the 22nd of April. So we're dealing with 22, right? The 22, number 22, master number, master builder. Scorpio was on the ascendant at the time of his death. That would be 7:30 local time in Kaust, Afghanistan. And normally we associate the 33rd degree latitude line with an interesting and faded kind of line that runs around the planet. Syria is at the 33rd degree. Los Angeles, close. It's right around 32, 33. Dallas, close, right around 32, 33. Pat Tillman in Kaust, Afghanistan, was at 65 east, but 33 north. So this is the north. This is the longitudinal line. So we see 33 and 22 come up. The ascendant was at 15 degrees, 16 degrees Scorpio, and Pat Tillman is at 14 degrees Scorpio with his sun. So his Scorpio sun was in the 12th house, right on the ascendant at the time of his death. It's an interesting kind of moment, where the sun is in the 12th house and just getting ready to leave and go into the first house, but it doesn't make it. Pat Tillman doesn't make it out of the 12th house. Had he made it out of that friendly fire and gotten through that moment in time, I believe that there would have been a major transformation and turning point in his life, but he did not. Pat also had Mercury conjunct his sun, very bright. I mean, he's a bright guy, don't get me wrong, but I'm not sure his decision. He was impassioned by his patriotism, right? That's what fired him up. So Mercury Sun conjunction right on the ascendant at the time of his death. We have a Mercury opposition at that time in Taurus, Mercury Sun opposition, and guess what? Neptune was in Aquarius, so we have a Neptune Sun, Neptune Mercury square, and Neptune, of course, is information in the third house, so there would be an obfuscation of facts and the distortion and illusion of his story as it relates to Neptune and Aquarius at that time. Saturn was in Gemini, of course, in the 8th house and opposing Pluto. So there was a Saturn-Pluto opposition going on. Pluto in the sign of Sagittarius at 19 degrees, and Pat's ascendant is 20 degrees Sagittarius. So we see transiting Pluto right on his ascendant. Right on his ascendant. Just before the ascendant, right? So if Pluto had made it out of the 12th house in Pat's chart, and been in the first. Game changer. Absolute game changer. But he doesn't. And it doesn't. And so at that time, Saturn was at 19 degrees. 19 degrees in the sign of Gemini. And that put Saturn in his sixth house, which is the house of service and purpose and work and dharma and all that stuff, right? He has Gemini there, so it'd be dual purpose, 2 careers, football player, soldier, Saturn, Pluto opposition, Pluto right at the ascendant. It doesn't end well, at least in this part of the story for Pat and his family. And by the way, what's also interesting here is he has Neptune natally in the 12th house in Sagittarius. And again, Sagittarius can be very patriotic, and Neptune can be deceitful and illusory. And so, excuse me, there can be kind of a mixed agenda with Neptune and Sag in the 12th house. But Pat's parents had divorced, and you can see that. You can almost always see this with the Sun-Moon opposition in the chart. Not hard to track. There it is, the Sun-Moon opposition. So it's Mercury retrograde, and we're talking about the death of Pat Tillman. And perhaps over the next 24 hours, you may see other people or other astrologers, or even on the news, maybe they'll revisit this. It seems like such a long time ago now, really, that occurred in 2003. It's the 10-year anniversary of the death of Pat Tillman. So there you go. There's another Mercury retrograde exercise for you. Okay, so when I get back, I'll play a little bit of music, and when I get back, we are going to get into some readings. How does that sound? Does everybody like the sound of that? All I have to do now is navigate my way back to the dashboard so that, oh, here we go, so that I can find you all and do some readings. All right, let's hear a little from my friend, my dearly departed friend, Mr. Jorge Reyes. This is El Sendero. I'll be back in 3 minutes and 44 seconds. That was Jorge Reyes, who is now taking the greatest shamanic journey of all that we can take, I suppose. Just a little housekeeping here before we get into the readings. On Friday, I will be joined by Derek, the Truth Seeker Grosskirth. It's a long title. I'm not sure why he just doesn't call himself Derek, the Truth Seeker, or Derek G, the Truth Seeker. Maybe we'll find out. Anyway, Derek is a hip-hop artist and also very into symbolism, and he likens himself, and others have said that he is very similar to Michael Tsarian. So we'll be getting a little bit of hip-hop symbolism and Pluto and Scorpio on Friday. I might have another guest as well. We'll see. But Derek, the Truth Seeker Grosskirth, will be on the show. My latest installment on Gaiam TV is supposed to be happening any day now. Let me just go. Maybe it's on there right now, and I haven't seen it yet. Let me just go there, see if it's up and running. Let's find out. I'm there now. I'm at Gaiam TV now. Recently added. Let's see if I've been recently added. I have not been recently added. However, I should be recently added. And when I am recently added, I will tell you as quickly as possible. It's on the death of JFK, the 50th anniversary, and I get into the astrological stuff, some of which you have seen on my website, and there is more that I have unearthed as well that is not on the website. A bigger, more expanded remix. And there's a new article up on robertphoenix.com about Russell Brand and his chart, which you guys may want to check out if you haven't done that yet. Close to 3,000 words. It took me almost 2 weeks to do it. But there it is. All right, let's take a call. Let's go to 347. Actually, yes, go 347. Let's talk to them. They've been on hold the longest and find out who they are, where they are, and what they want to look at. Hello there. Hello. It's your time. I'll put you back on hold. Someone's just listening. Let's go to the 909. Hello there.
Hello.
Hi.
You caught me swallowing turkey sandwich. This is Tessa, and my...
I thought it was you, yes. You're just listening?
No, this time, my friends in chat have been pestering me to get a reading.
Oh, okay. Well, let's fire up the reading machine.
Okay.
Yeah.
June 20.
Hold on one sec here. Let me do this and this. I just have to move
computer's wonderful.
I have to just move a few things around here. Doesn't take long though. June 20th, okay.
1954. That's 1954. Sometimes
okay.
50 sounds like 60. 7:43 p.m.
Okay.
Culver City, California. If that isn't in there, use Los Angeles.
Oh, no, it'll be in here. No doubt.
Well, it's pretty much the same latitude, around 33.
Yeah, Culver City is actually 34. But, yeah, 3401. All right, there you are. Yes, indeed. So Pluto is going to be joining up with your true node next year. That's significant. It's quite significant.
Okay.
Yeah, because the true node is like the true north of the chart, and you have a pretty strong aggregation of planets in Capricorn in your first house. And people that have either Capricorn ascendant and you don't, you have Jupiter, I'm sorry, not Jupiter, you have Sagittarius on the ascendant at 24 degrees. My Jupiter is right on your ascendant, by the way. So when people have that strong Capricornian first house action going on, they tend to have kind of a longer, I would say, personal trajectory and arc than other people, and that the realization of their goals, and as it relates to their identity and their will, takes place later in life. That they, especially with the true node on the ascendant, it's kind of it's a very powerful indicator that your purpose comes to you, after other people have tapped into theirs or used theirs up or whatever that thing is, right? And at 14 degrees, it's about ready to have Pluto hit it, which it will next year. So this is a powerful moment in time for you. It reawakens your purpose. It reawakens your endurance. It reawakens your vitality. We're talking Venus and Capricorn today, potentially even bringing you people that can help you with whatever it is you still want to manifest, work on, and achieve in this lifetime. And I think that that's pretty significant. You also have Chiron in Capricorn at 27 degrees, and that Chiron will be way down the line, hit by Pluto, but not anytime soon.
Chiron is a moon?
Chiron is an asteroid. It's an asteroid. It hangs out between Saturn and Uranus. It was discovered in 1976. And Chiron is called the wounded healer in the chart. And Chiron was the centaur, that was the guy that, or the creature, the chimera that healed Achilles. So he
also taught the philosophers wisdom.
Yes. So Chiron holds the wisdom and the key. If you look at Chiron, it looks like a key. It holds the wisdom and the key to the chart. And that is our wound. It's our wound. And it usually indicates, in my experience with Chiron, a type of social indoctrination or institutionalization that we all have to deal with at some level. And depending on what sign Chiron is in, it can indicate that institution or that, sort of iteration. And you have it in Capricorn. So it's about dealing with, things like corporate superstructures and banking, and in some ways, for lack of a better term, the unenlightened patriarchy, essentially people in positions of power and all the things that we would want to kind of shun from or run from with Chiron and Capricorn. You would want to, I would not necessarily say embrace, but have to break through it and work through it. Now, Phil was older than you, right?
Yes.
How much older?
25 years.
That would be another kind of sort of piece around Chiron and Capricorn, because perhaps that would be at that time, maybe not in your circle, but in other circles, that might be seen as, unusual or different or not really, well thought of at that time. That would be another kind of Chiron and Capricorn experience. It would be, being with somebody more advanced.
It was scandalous, but it didn't matter.
That's right. That would be, so you, in a lot of ways, were dealing with Chiron and Capricorn in your own way, and working with it. How old were you when you met Phil?
18.
There you go. That's a total Chiron and Capricorn experience. And how old were you when you guys eventually parted ways?
Let's see, 23. No, 20, almost 24.
24. So 18 to 24. So that's 6 years. What happened when you were 27?
Well, I was thanking God that I lived because some palm reader said I would die in a car crash at age 26.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh. And I had the car crash, but I lived.
Okay. Well, that is Chiron. The 27th degree is your Chiron degree. Where was Phil when you were 27?
Oh, he had his apartment in Santa Ana. Doris had left him. He left me for Doris. She left him.
Okay.
And we were getting along pretty well because he didn't own me anymore.
Mm-hmm. Did he try to resuscitate the relationship at 27?
Oh, constantly.
Yeah.
Every time I saw him, and of course I saw him frequently because we had a child.
Right. So that would be the degree where your chironic moment came into play, would be 27. Did you ever think of getting back together with Phil at that point?
Oh, I eventually said yes, but he died before we could actually remarry.
And how old were you when that happened?
Let's see, 82. I guess I can't do math in my head. I'm sleepy and cold. I think that's 28.
28. So right around that 27, age 27 is the chironic moment. So anyway, it might have something to do with the flux in your life between you and Phil at that point in time. You have a trine, a grand trine in air. You have a grand air trine, and you have Saturn and Neptune in Libra up in the 10th house, and then Sun in Gemini at 29 degrees anaretic degree, and Moon in Capricorn in the 2nd house. You have a few planets in Cancer: Jupiter, Mercury, and Uranus. And Jupiter is on your Uranus right now, which is actually very interesting. And it's going to be moving backwards, headed back towards your Mercury. Are you going to be doing any writing?
Well, I am doing writing, but I'm formulating a sequel to my epic Fallen Angels.
Uh-huh.
And I did promise some people to write a second murder mystery, too. And I think I can start doing that now.
Yeah.
Well, you know, during the period when I was with Phil, I reinvented myself. I changed my name and everything about me.
Yeah.
So I think I've escaped whatever fate was in the charts or the numbers for me as a child.
Right.
And he helped.
I'm sure he did. I mean, living with Philip K. Dick probably would be one of the more interesting exercises, and probably in some ways quite enlightening in a person's life.
Yeah. Well, he was an amazing man.
Yeah. Hey, I never asked you. What do you think of that little snippet of music that I have at the beginning with him?
You mean the clip of his Met speech?
Yes.
Well, I use a longer version of it myself to open my show.
No kidding.
Yeah, I wish I'd been there.
Yeah. That was in 1976, right?
77.
77?
Yeah, we had just been divorced, and he took this gal named Joan with him. She thought he was nuts, and when they got home, she headed for the hills.
She couldn't handle him.
No, she didn't understand what he was saying about the unreal qualities of our universe, and it scared her.
Yeah, I'm sure. People, a lot of times people can be quite enamored of a personality, and then when they spend some time with them and hang out with them, it can be a very different story up close. So.
Well, Phil was also a victim of some kind of mind control.
Yeah.
And I think he caught on and they gave up.
Well, that's when that was the Vancouver experience, right?
Well, that was sort of the culmination. But in '74, he began to have visions on the same day that he had oral surgery.
Right.
And we always figured it was the pain and the drugs that they gave him that caused it. But knowing what I know now and looking back, I think maybe, quite likely, in fact, they implanted something in his jaw that caused him to hear voices and see flashes of light. And perhaps it was something to do with radio frequencies transmitted at him.
He would not be the only person that has ventured into that realm. So, by the way, I was born in Verdun, but I lived in Metz for the first 9 months of my life. So that recording actually has kind of a unique interest for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
When I found that out, I thought it was interesting.
Phil had read a great deal about the history of the conflict between France and Germany, and that area historically has gone back and forth between the two countries. That's
right. And it was a major conflagration with the two of them as a result of the death of Prince Ferdinand, Archduke Ferdinand. And
yep.
It was a big deal. In fact, I actually went to Verdun when I was in my early 40s, 41, for the first time in my life. I went to see where I was born because I had never gone back there. And it was an interesting experience for me.
Another synchronicity.
Yeah, I mean, from a past life perspective, I think that I was there. I think that I had been a part of that battle. So
Phil's father was at Verdun in World War I.
Oh, interesting. There we go.
He was a messenger running back and forth with messages. I'm not positive. I think he had a motorcycle.
So Phil's father was in Verdun. Phil gave that speech at Metz. I was born in Verdun and lived in Metz.
Wow.
That's pretty interesting, don't you think?
Sure is. Synchronistic.
Very synchronistic. No wonder I played that piece of music, or that piece with the music added to it. Interesting stuff. Yeah. Hey, Tessa, I'm going to try to take a few more calls here in the last 30 minutes, so I will see you tomorrow for our interview, okay?
All right. We can talk about JFK.
We will, and we shall, all right?
All right. Thanks again.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Not sure if she wants to stay on hold, but I'll put her on hold anyway. Let's go to the 209.
Hello
there. Hi.
Hey there. I'm Carol.
Hi, Carol. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. In Northern California, and I'm calling mainly about my son's chart. And we've had like a major earthquake of change, shift, and he's the forefront of it because of his age. And since like about September 19th, I've never had his chart done. In fact, I was cautioned off when he was a baby by a an astrologer who billed himself as a Jungian astrologer, and he told me there are some things that parents shouldn't know before they start on this journey. Anyway, the birth date is 11/21/9.
All right, hold on. Let me get into this. All right. What is that creaking sound?
Creaky?
Yes.
Maybe I was walking too much.
Hold on. I gotta figure this out. Hold on. We're in a different place here. He was born in 2009.
No, 11/21/69.
Oh, 69. Okay, I was like 2009. I was like, wow, that's a major earthquake if he was born in 2009.
No.
Hold on. Let me just find a chart that I can go over here. Just hold on one sec. So many relevant charts. Let's go to this one. Yes, this one. This is the one. All right, so 21.
11/21, November
11/21.
1969.
1969. Okay, what time?
8:54 a.m.
8:54 a.m. And where?
Tucson, Arizona.
Okay. All right, punching it up now. Okay, so you want to...
I just want to look at the last, say, since October 19th through now. What I'm saying is like such a shift that if I told you the story, you would not even believe me. It's like on a fairy tale level. I can't discuss the detail, but it after a dark period for this guy, he's come out into a light that's so bright that it's almost scary. And I just thought, is there something astrological that might relate to this? Does it have any long-term power, or is it just, it really can't be something short-term, it's so big.
Well, I would say the long-term frequency of this would be in Scorpio and Saturn. Saturn is making a pass through his 11th house. And if you go back to the time frame that you're talking about, that would put Saturn right around 11 degrees Scorpio, which means that it would be squaring his Mars in Aquarius, but also conjuncting his natal Venus in Scorpio. So from my experience and understanding of the Saturn-Venus conjunction, what takes place at that time is that relationships get put into like a bell jar, and they get compressed. And the only thing that remains out of that bell jar or that vacuum are the most salient and tangible relationships. When I say relationships, I'm talking specifically male-female, or not male-female, specifically one-on-one relating as in partnerships, but also in your son's case, this would be in the 11th house, so it would be friends as well. And the only relationships that remain through that process are the ones that are the most vital and important to the individual's life at that time. And I experienced this with my own chart when Saturn moved through Libra, and my Venus is in the 11th house as well. I had to really distill down some of my connections, but more importantly, it forced me to re-examine my relationship to relationship in general. And this happened again in the sign of Libra, and for your son in Scorpio. So this is really a deeply inside-out operation for him. And that would include everything from his sexuality to his use of power to anything that's associated with Scorpio. Now, Mars comes into play in Aquarius because the Mars-Venus square in the chart, especially in fixed signs, can be difficult to resolve. It indicates that this is somebody that's very stubborn and not really willing to make changes, especially as it has to do with relationships. Mars in Aquarius is very willful, especially in the second house. I will do it my way. I will do it the way that I perceive to be the right way. Mars also squares Saturn, and it squares his moon, right? So what is the moon? It's mother. And the moon-Saturn conjunction in his chart indicates generally a very close relationship to the mother. Very close. It's in the second house, fourth house rather, but so close to the point where it could be almost asphyxiating in some ways. Now, Saturn comes into play here, and with the square to Mars, it completes the circuit with the square to the moon and the square to Saturn. Now, if you go back in time, this process for him personally would have started in October of 2013. Because at that time, October 2012. At that time, that's when Saturn moved into Scorpio, and began to oppose his natal moon. So this did not happen overnight. This has been the process of about a year-long self-examination, re-examination of not just his relationship to you, which is mother, but relationship to how he has been either guarded or protected or shielded by you and your influence in his life. That is when the examination would have started. Now, he's not through with this process because the Saturn square to Mars is in a lot of ways about the striking out of his own individuality. When I say striking out, I don't mean that in a pejorative sense, like you strike out in baseball, but striking out in the sense that he's going to try to make something happen.
Right.
And Saturn is not done with him. He's got to pass with Neptune, and he's got to pass with Scorpio, and this will all take place in the next year. He's got 29 degrees Scorpio. That's his that's his sun sign. That's a tricky sun sign for Scorpio. It's at the anaretic degree, and the anaretic degree is difficult for almost any sign, but for Scorpio, I think it poses some of the greatest problems because the individual must attend to the psychic welfare of his own individual organism, that he cannot move beyond the most basic and fundamental sort of psychic hygiene for himself and his sign. He has to clean up his act, and he has to attend to it and look over it and steward it with almost a omnipresent kind of vigilance. With the
sometimes could be obsessive in that area, but I think you really hit on it. It's like it has some aspects. It feels like almost a rebirth, like somebody bursting out again into a new phase. But it was triggered by outside relationships and unexpected catalytic type of relationships that kind of set this fire off. That's the best I can say, but it does have some magical aspects to it, as I said. But I see what you're saying. Yeah, it has a lot. There's a lot of that personal interior transformation that not many people get to really experience. But in his case, he's had the time, the energy, and the diligence to weed through that at this age, which, I don't think it happens that often. So.
Well, he's also a deeply mystical person with the Neptune-Sun conjunction. He can be very magnetic.
Right.
And he can be very charismatic, especially with the Sagittarius ascendant.
proved that over and over again. There's been a withdrawal from that kind of magic that he's able to create. There's been an internal stewing that's been going on for probably 5 years actually. But now it's like you can almost feel the recapturing of that magic and directing it in a direction that now makes sense to him. He was waiting for it to make sense, and then outside influences congealed to make it make sense. So it's all just going off like a bomb. My question was, is it still a longer-term process, or
Yes.
has he actually put his feet on the ground with this?
No, he's not done. He's
Okay.
not done. I would say that the initial flashpoint was Saturn transiting over his Venus with the Mars square and the opposition to Moon and Saturn, which again started in October of 2013. That has been the catalyst, and he's moved over a significant point with the Saturn-Venus transit, but he still has Saturn to go over his Neptune and Saturn to go over his Sun. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's fated or unlucky or anything like that. It feels to me like a more of a deeper distillation of his identity and his soul. I think that he has a tremendous point of contact coming towards him with his soul in 2014. At the end of 2014, it's a significant time for him. And Saturn does not come round again for another 28 and a half years.
Right,
so he's going to be getting his marching orders for the next 28 and a half years.
Yeah, and if you knew the detail of the story, that all congeals completely. It's just amazing. Okay. Well, I won't keep you any longer. You probably have other calls, but I thank you for that.
Okay, Carol. Hey, thank you for calling and appreciate it, okay?
Okay, bye-bye.
Take care, bye-bye. Okay, let's take one more call here. Let's try the 347 again. Hello there.
Hi.
Are you ready to talk?
Sure. If the number's for me, how are you?
Hey, what's going on, Natasha? How are you?
I'm good. I had saw your link online, so I was just like, oh, let me plug into your show and just see what you got going on there. It's been a good show thus far.
Well, thank you. For those of you who are uninitiated, this is Natasha. This is a peer, and I'm not sure what else you got going on with Kair, but you're close. And I met Natasha through Kair, and we did a show together on, what was it, Halloween? Was that a Halloween show?
I think it might have been the week before Halloween.
Week before Halloween. And
Yeah.
Natasha is the number swami, and she is really into numerology and did some numerology readings on Halloween as well. And I thought she was terrific. So here we are.
Yes, indeedy.
Yeah.
Well, you gave me a little information today, so I'm curious because you were talking with the other callers in regards to kind of like Chiron and Pluto, and I have some information on that. That would be great.
Well, let's see what we got here. I think I hope I have your chart still up here. I've been doing a lot of. It's funny. People will ask me things like, what do you see? Can you see anything for me? And a lot of times I just can't get to it in that moment, but eventually I circle back to stuff, which I did with you today, because you had probably asked me about 10 days ago, maybe 2 weeks ago or something. But I eventually got back there, but I think I just used your chart as like a template as I was going through a bunch of charts. So why don't let's do this one. Let's do a quickie here for you. Okay. All right. Let me see how much I can remember here. I know that you're a Aquarius, and so it'd be February. What day is it again? 14? Okay.
Mhm.
And what was the year?
1980.
80. And the time?
8:02 p.m.
And I know you were born in the Bronx.
Yes.
Okay. That I remember. All right, so here we go. Let's see. Okay, there it is. So your Chiron is in the 8th house in Taurus. And it's interesting because you and I were talking on chatting on Facebook, and I was talking about sort of the potential of putting together some kind of somatic system based on numerology, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And the soma or somatic systems are like body mind wisdom. It's like seeing the mind and the body as being one whole, like the mind not being cut off from the body. Like the body is the mind and the mind is the body, vice versa. Those sorts of things, and supporting a somatic structure would be anything related to linking the body-mind experience. That would be body work, massage, any kind of the natural therapies, homeopathy, herbs, mineral therapy, magnetics, anything that allows us to have this sort of more connected relationship with the mind and the body, and to try to find a way where you can correlate your number work with all that stuff. So we talked about that. You have Chiron Taurus in the 8th house, and so Taurus is the body. Taurus is the body, represents the body, and Chiron is sort of again the wounded healer. In this configuration, it is connected to the body. So it's about understanding the body. It's about understanding your relationship to the body. It's about grounding too, Chiron in Taurus. And you have a fair amount of Earth in your chart, so you don't have to worry about not being grounded. It's there. You've got all that Virgo, especially with Saturn on the ascendant. But it's about getting into the somatic space, and it's in the 8th house. So the 8th house is the house of mystery. So it's understanding the mystery of the body, the mystery of sexuality, the mystery of your own body, and the opposite is in the 2nd house in Scorpio. And so what we do is we look at the 2nd house as being the receptor of the experience of the 8th. And so that's where you would bring your chironic journey or your chironic discoveries down into the 2nd house, which is real foundational, first chakra, very rooted, very physical stuff, right? And right now Saturn is going through your 2nd house in Scorpio. So the idea here with Saturn in the 2nd house in Scorpio, if you have the 2nd house also rules money and finances and material goods. So with Saturn there, you tend to work harder when there's a Saturn transit through the 2nd. But in Scorpio, you also need to work smarter too. And with Saturn going through there in Scorpio, this would be a time to explore those kinds of things that you and I were kind of batting around on Facebook, different ways of making money or different ways in which you can kind of infuse your personal transformational work with different types of, I wouldn't say different types of modalities, but exploring ways in which you can bring in the 8th house down into the 2nd, because that's what the Saturn transit is calling for. It's like become grounded with your knowledge, become more explicate with your knowledge, and use it in a way that can transform not just people's lives, but can transform your own abundance and your own purpose. So going deep and finding this connection between the body-mind experience and manifesting it in the 2nd house is part of what I see with that Chiron in Taurus. On a personal note, Chiron in Taurus can at times represent a challenge with intimacy, physical intimacy. And it squares your moon in your chart. You have moon in Aquarius. And on a personal level, that moon is it's cool. It's like a cool moon. You have a nice sextile to Venus. You know, the Venus-Moon sextile is one of the nicest aspects to have in a chart. It makes the person really pleasant and harmonious, and you know they really look to have some kind of receptive and almost like a win-win sort of vibe in relationship. You know, so you've got that, but on a deeper level, beneath the harmonious nature of the moon and the Venus sextile, there's something deeper lurking with that Chiron and Taurus, that people can access you and connect with you and relate with you at a level that is cool and copacetic. But when it comes to going deeper and getting into that intimacy around the body and sexuality, that's a whole other level of interaction with you. And for a person to go there with you, they really have to pass, I think, some significant tests, because that's where the moon squares Chiron. Like, I don't know if you have children or not, but if you do, that would be part of it. That they would have to be, you'd have to know them for a while. You would have to really trust them before you would let them in at any deeper level because of the relationship with mothering and maternity and things like that. So your work on a personal level is to get stronger with your Chiron, and with Pluto right now in Capricorn, you can do that for sure, because you have Pluto in your fourth house, Pluto trining your Chiron, and this is happening, right now. You may even want to consider some kind of move, maybe a move to a place that's safer, or a place that is, more congenial to the type of work you want to do, with a garden, maybe where you want to grow your own herbs or your own vegetables or things like that. So there you go. There's some Pluto and some Chiron stuff for you.
Awesome. You just gave me so much confirmation in some things, because I've been thinking about a move for quite some time. And just where am I going to go? Just want to go either west or warm or south, something like that. And you just added the little pieces that says yeah, you need to go. So this is perfect. Thank you so much.
Hey, you're welcome. Are you going to be talking to Kair anytime soon?
I'll probably give him a call sometime today, and we got a show tomorrow, so we'll definitely be linking up tonight to discuss what we're going to get into via topics tomorrow.
Okay, well, you tell him I said hi, all right?
I will.
Okay. All right, Natasha, we'll see you around, and thanks for calling in.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye. All right, let's just take this quickly and see what's up. And I may end the show and just do the reading after the stream. Hello there.
Hello.
Hi, who's this?
Hi, my name is Jacqueline.
Hi, Jacqueline.
Hi. I wonder if you could help me, excuse me, with this. I've been a massage therapist for a number of years, and I've been doing, making my own aromatherapy. And I'm in school full time, so I don't have a whole lot of time for, work or whatever. And I'm thinking about starting a home-based business where I can do massage and Reiki in my home, kind of like on a donation type basis. More trying to make it more spiritual and relaxing, that type of thing.
Yep.
Can you share with me what you might see, as far as me doing that in my home, and how soon, if it's a good idea and all that?
Yeah, let me do this. Let me end the show, and then I'll come back and I'll do the reading here. So let's make this the official end of the show. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in and listening and sharing your lives. Because coming on the show, even though you're anonymous, you are sharing your lives. You never know where it's going to go. I mean, I could talk about something very personal, and that can make people uncomfortable at times. So thank you for calling in and having the courage to do that. I'll be back on Friday with Derek, the Truth Seeker Grosskirth, and his music and his thoughts on the world and symbolism as it relates to systems of control. I'll see you on Friday. Thank you. Okay, let's talk about you now. When's your birthday?
November 8th.
Okay, and well, happy birthday. When is your what year were you born in?
1952.
Okay, and what time?
What time? 4:30 a.m.
4:30 a.m. Okay.
Yeah, 4:30, 4:33, something like that.
All right, and where was that?
Los Angeles, California.
All right. All right. Let's see what we got here. Okay, so you want to know about your home-based business, Reiki, massage, healing, essential oils, groovy setting, relaxed. Yeah, I say yeah. And the reason I say yes is, and I'll tell you why. It's a qualified yes. You have Chiron, no, not Chiron, you have the true node in Aquarius in the fourth house, right? So the fourth house is the house of home. It's the house of home. And you want to go to where the true node is in the chart. That's where you find your purpose. So for you, it's in the home. It's real simple. And it's Aquarius. It's Aquarius, so you're bringing all these kind of Aquarian things together in one space. So I give that a major thumbs up. Now, your Mars is at 15 Capricorn, right? 19 Capricorn. 19 Capricorn. Next year, Mars gets up around, Pluto gets up around 13 degrees, and then in 2015 it goes even deeper. The Pluto-Mars conjunction is very powerful, and your Pluto is going to oppose your Uranus, and it's going to square your Neptune on the ascendant. This is a tricky time for you with your Mars, but I would say more likely we're talking 2016, right around then. It's a major change for you in your life. It's a very powerful change for you, and part of it has to do with understanding the nature of power. Another part of it has to do with dealing with kind of radical disruption in your life, which is the Pluto-Uranus opposition. And the other part is, you're a mystic by nature because you have Neptune on the ascendant. And that Pluto square to Neptune, but also the Pluto square to Saturn, has to also do with relationship. And there's something about kind of a Rubicon moment at that time where you're going to have to kind of forcibly, recreate not just your identity, but how it relates to relationships also in your life. It's a major transit for you, and it's not one without some risk. Potentially, if you are involved with somebody at that time who would be super possessive, or not want you to branch out and continue to have your kind of personal arc of growth or something along those lines, at which point in time you have to be a little careful. Now, you've got your sun at 16 degrees Scorpio. Saturn is right on your sun right now. It opposes Jupiter in your chart, and it does square Pluto in your chart as well. It's a part of a T-square, pretty intense T-square. But when we look at the T-square, I don't necessarily think it's bad. I mean, Jupiter and Taurus is everything we were talking about, like massage, Reiki, essential oils. It's all body stuff, right? And Saturn on your sun indicates to me that you are taking it seriously, that this is what you want to do. And whenever Saturn comes around your sun, which it won't happen again for another 28 and a half years, it's a revision and a reversion of your identity and your purpose. So bringing that opposition, that Jupiter Taurus, all that body stuff closer to the sun, which is, you know, the psyche and psychic stuff, is good. I think it's a good thing. Now it does square Pluto, and you're going to get that Saturn-Pluto square later in 2014. So there may be people, again, that might be slightly resistant to this. There may be people that could be threatened by the type of work that you're going to be doing. Maybe they think it might be too intimate. You know, maybe they think that you might be cheating on them or whatever that thing is. So you're going to have to deal with people that may not be as open to it as you would like them to be. And that's going to be part of what you're going to have to kind of, you know, fight for and define. You know, you can just say, hey, I'm not doing some kind of, you know, tacky massage parlor thing in this home. This is a legit exercise. So that might also manifest, by the way, with authorities. Like if you run a business out of your home, you know, you may somehow wind up having somebody come by and inspect it. You know, or could be busybodies watching cars come by. You know, and they'll say, oh, all these people keep coming by her at Jacqueline's house. What are they doing over there, right? So you just have to be careful and try to make it as official as possible. Take out a business license or whatever it is you need to do to become like qualified, right?
Right, yeah. Yeah, because I was thinking about just starting with, you know, just starting at where I am, and then when the money increases, get a studio or something like that, because right now, like I said, I'm, you know, the cash flow is not there. I'm a full-time student, and I'm a non-traditional student, so I return at, you know, a much later age. So it's taken me a little more studying than I expected to just get through school, and that's why, you know, the job situation is kind of strained, even though I've been looking anyway for a part-time job, just a little harder to come by. So I said, well, maybe I can just start doing my business here.
I think it's a good idea. I think it's a good idea. You know, it's interesting. I want to share this with you. Then I have to run. But your Uranus in the 9th house indicates that you are an unusual student, right? Because the 9th house is higher learning in universities. And when Uranus shows up there in the chart, that's interesting. So Pluto, okay, this gives me another kind of hit on that Pluto-Uranus opposition. How far away are you from graduating?
I graduate in May.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, so Pluto will be, it's not quite, you see Uranus is at 15. Well, it's going to be square or opposite. It will be opposite. Let's see. Hold on. Uranus 18. No. Well, off 5 degrees. It won't be that intense. But yeah, we can see the unusual nature of your being a student because of Uranus's position in the 9th, which is higher learning in universities and law and philosophy and all that stuff. So, well, congratulations for you know, to you. You know, that's really cool. And your sun trines Uranus and gives you a unique identity and kind of a unique perspective on life. And that's great. I'm glad you could do that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm thinking about going to grad school, but you know, like I say, it's kind of, you know, it's a challenge. You know, I'm in undergrad, and it's a challenge, but I don't know. Maybe not. I'm not sure. But I really appreciate you taking my call and you know, giving me all this insight, and I'm going to get to work on it right away. And I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right, Jacqueline. You take good care now.
You too, and have a great day.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And with that, we have reached the end of the show. If you're listening, you're one of the troopers that have listened all the way through, even to the end. Not just the streaming portion, but the entirety of the podcast. All right, I'll be back Friday with Derek, the Truth Seeker Grosskirth. It's a lot to say. And that should do it for today. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to discern what's possible. This is Robert Phoenix, and here is Philip K. Dick.
We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this an alternative world branched off.